Alright, this weekend, as we know, Oliveria is going up against Islam Makhachev, the protege of Khabib Nurmagomedov. And I'm here to talk about today who is the greatest lightweight of all time. Lightweight in the UFC is by far the most stacked division. It is insane. Killer after killer, all with insane technical ability. But at the top of the food chain, the king is Khabib, okay? He's known as the greatest of all time. He's the greatest lightweight of all time. I don't know about the pound-for-pound GOAT or the GOATs in general.
I want to stay humble.
But at lightweight, Khabib's the man. Retired at 29-0. He was 13-0 in the UFC. And of course, retired on top as champion of the world. So he'll forever go down in history. What a career he had. But is he the best? Is he really? Is Charles Oliveria, in fact, the greatest lightweight of all time? Because he might just be.
This is #1 bullshit.
Now, of course, it all depends on what happens in Abu Dhabi. Because if Islam Makhachev beats Charles Oliveria, this conversation doesn't even matter. It automatically goes to Khabib, okay? Now let's go through it, because both of these men are incredible. Khabib Nurmagomedov wrestles with bears, but now Charles Oliveria is literally walking with lions. Yeah, if you look at his Instagram, he's out in Abu Dhabi walking with lions. So he wrestles with bears, he walks with lions. But who's the GOAT? Who gets the GOAT? Who is the greatest lightweight of all time? Well, let's go through it. Here's the case for Khabib. His record 29, 13-0 in the UFC, as I said, and he was one of the most dominant fighters that the UFC had ever seen. In 60 career rounds, this man only lost 2 rounds. Round 1 versus Justin Gaethje, very, very close. And round 3 versus Conor McGregor, again, very, very close. He was never knocked down, and he was never even rocked. The closest was a brief moment once against Michael Johnson. He was only taken down once in his entire career versus Abel Trujillo at UFC 180. Khabib also outlanded all of his opponents on average 2-1. Not bad for a wrestler. Khabib landed the second most takedowns in division history at 59, and no other world champion came anywhere close to that number. Now, of course, the biggest fight that he had, UFC 229 against Conor McGregor, went out there, massive grudge match, let his emotions get the better of him at the end, but he went out there, dominated that fight generally, and got the finish in round 4 via rear naked choke. Of course, Justin Gaethje had a, not tough, but he probably lost that first round, as I said earlier, but came back in style, got it with the guillotine choke in 2, and of course choked out Dustin Poirier to unify the belt and take that interim title off Dustin Poirier in round 3. So listen, we never saw him lose to anyone, and he was so dominant it's hard to imagine him losing to anyone. All we ever saw was him win and dominate people, but he retired at 32 years old, okay? After 3 title defenses and 2.5 years as the champion of the world. Now that is fantastic, but if he'd have stuck around longer, would we have seen him lose the belt? Would we have seen him get challenged? We just never know. And that is only one of the real arguments for Khabib not being the pound-for-pound #1. He retired at 32 years old after 3 title defenses and 2.5 years as champion. That's amazing. Retired undefeated, but the reality is, the reason we asked the question is that he didn't stick around long enough. And we know why. It was a very honourable reason. He made a promise to his mother and he stuck to that. And wow, what a guy. What a guy. And I respect that so much. But that's a different thing. Would he have beaten all these top new contenders? He beat some of them. Would he have beaten Charles? The reality is we don't know. We can only imagine. Now, there is a chance, by the way, that if Islam gets defeated from Charles Oliveria, you never know. We might see Khabib come back.
Send me a message, like location, I'm gonna come.
All right, now let's make a case for Charles Oliveria. First of all, if he beats Islam Makhachev, okay, he has equaled the lightweight title defenses of Khabib Nurmagomedov, but the way that he's doing it, Charles is in the record books for so many reasons, okay? Finished the most fights in UFC history, 19. The most subs in UFC history at 16. He has the most fight bonuses in UFC history at 18. And he is closing in on the most wins in UFC history. He's got 21 right now. Currently, the record is Jim Miller at 24. So, Charles' record against top talent also is probably equal, perhaps better, than Khabib's. Oliveira's beat in a row Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, Poirier and Gaethje. Now fans, they always say that they're better wins than what Khabib had over Al Quinta, Conor, Poirier and Gaethje. There's a lot of similar names on there. The reality is, who is the GOAT? Who is the best? Well, Charles, he lost 8 times. He lost 8 times. Khabib never lost. And that is a big factor, okay? But it was at a different weight class. That was at 145. Do we eradicate that? Do we forget about that? I don't think we do. A big question is, who would win the fight? If Khabib and Oliveira fought right now, who would win? It's hard to imagine Khabib losing. It's also hard to imagine Oliveira losing, although he does get clipped and dropped in almost every single fight. So this is just one of those things. You know, Khabib is loved, revered, and I have so much respect for the man. So this video is not in any way an attack or trying to take away, but it's an interesting talking point because lightweight has got the most eyes on it in the UFC, and whoever is the champion is one of the most best technical fighters. Simple as that. Khabib's the man. Khabib the eagle. Khabib wrestles with bears. Charles walks with lions. The greatest lightweight of all time, though, I think if Charles beats Islam this weekend, I think that belongs to Charles now.
If you wanna find me, please just send me location. Send me location.
I really do. I really do. I think he will have surpassed him simply because he's taking out all the top contenders, and it's not Khabib's fault. I talked about that earlier. But you cannot deny the numbers, the momentum, the history that Oliveira's making. Still, as I say, it's totally subjective. It's all an opinion. What do you think? Is Khabib the GOAT? Does he get to gloat? Does he get to say that he's the greatest lightweight of all time? Or is it Dude Bronx, Charles Oliveira?